Here we are. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back. This is our final original show for Zoom. With a tear in my eye, I present this to you. Next week, WMHT just started promoting my show next week. So the first show starts 6 o'clock next Monday night. It's Franz Schubert, The Bridge to Romanticism. And it's talking about his role in connecting the classical period to the Romantic period. And then, as I had mentioned, and I will email, I hate emailing every week. I really don't like that, but I will send an email, and we'll be here at 7 o'clock. I'll answer questions. We can talk about the show and anything that you want to talk about. But tonight, we had talked a couple weeks ago about in the iconoclasts, specifically with a couple of composers, Janacek and Bartók, and we talked about their use of folk music in their music. And that got me thinking, well, obviously there are others who did this, but there are also composers who were not from a certain culture and sort of borrowed from another culture or what they thought was another culture. And also borrowing from a certain style of music that they wanted to write in. So I thought it would be interesting to sort of look at a couple pieces like that have a certain flavor and see where the origins are from and maybe what kind of flavor these composers are going for. So that's what we'll be looking at tonight. I have 5 performances to choose from, and that this goes out from throughout history. This goes way back with people using idioms and styles from different cultures. We talked about Chopin's use of his Polish dance forms. You can go and look at the Ländler, the Austrian dances that go from Mozart, used them, Schubert, Bruckner, Mahler famously in the First Symphony. So I thought, looking at it at a specific sort of flavor, and we'll listen to recordings and see, what flavor this certain composer is going for, and and why they did it the way they did. So let's just jump right into it. I'm going to play you a recording. This is the Haydn D major piano concerto. And this is a recording with the International Sejong Soloists, which is led by a violinist, Hyo Kong, who was a protege of the famous violin pedagogue, Dorothy DeLay. And the pianist is Orly Shaham, who's the sister and recital partner of the violinist Gil Shaham, and also married to the conductor David Robertson. So here is the Haydn's, the third movement from Haydn's Concerto in D major. Here we go. And this is a performance from Sunday, March 7th, 2004. Charming. So this piece, I mean, Haydn's not known for his piano concerti for sure, but this is the one that's always played, particularly because of this movement. What can you tell me about what Haydn is going for here?
Dance? I don't know.
Yes, dance. There's a figure that happens over and over again. There's that sort of dissonant and it's this very sort of dissonant, I think it's a major second, and it's giving it this sort of flair that Haydn is going for here. Stumped. Well, let's take a look at the score. What is that word?
Hungarian.
Hunger.
Hungarian.
Hungarian. Ah.
Hungarian.
Gypsy.
Gypsy.
Okay.
Somebody said gypsy. You're playing right into my hands. Yes. So this is a rondo alla Ungherese.
Kind of feed it to us, but yeah.
But so you know, obviously Haydn is coming from where? Where was Haydn?
Austria.
Vienna.
Austria-Hungary in Vienna. Yes, the Habsburg Empire.
Yeah.
So lots of Hungarians about. So he was giving a flavor to this piano concerto, where, as I think, was it Harvey who said, a gypsy sort of feel to it. Now he has a trio as well, the piano trio in G major, which is nicknamed the Gypsy as well. Mm-hmm. And the third movement is also Rondo alla I think that's Ungherese. Yeah, it's Ungherese. Rondo alla Ungherese. So he's giving, even back in Haydn's time, he's giving a sort of exotic flavor to it for those who are outside Vienna, of course, who are not exposed to the Hungarian music. So let's slide directly into Mr. Brahms. We are going to listen to the last movement of the Brahms first piano quintet in G minor, opus 25. And this is a performance from Sunday, January 11th in 2009. And it's Peiyao Wang, who is a pianist that Dan Berkenblit had brought here a number of seasons. And she's the pianist. Ty Murray, the violinist, who was just quoted in the New York Times about her favorite Mozart recordings. She lives in Berlin at the moment. Eric Nowlin, the violist, he was principal viola of Toronto Symphony and is now principal of the Detroit Symphony. And a cellist named Sophie Shao, who's a soloist in New York. So let's hear the last movement of the Brahms G minor piano quartet. Here we go. See if anything is familiar.
forget her name now, but she was so good, the pianist.
That was fantastic.
Fun, huh?
Derek,
Yes.
this is such a great movement for so many reasons, but as I recall, he was an accompanist for a Hungarian violinist and toured when he was a very young man. And I believe the man's name was Remenyi, if I'm not mistaken. And so because this is an early work, I wonder if some of what he learned about the Hungarian style might have come from those accompaniments. I'm not sure.
I think that's true. I think that, you know, he wrote the Hungarian dances for Joachim.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he definitely had knowledge of this type of flavor. So Paul, you're saying that this is Hungarian.
But not. No.
Romanian?
Romania.
Well, this is the question.
Okay.
So how did it compare to what we just heard of Haydn? Is it in the same ballpark?
Yes.
You know.
It's got a lot more.
Much more complex rhythmically,
Yeah.
but certainly
More vigorous.
dance, the gypsy-like dance rhythms, the irregular rhythms, the richness even of the harmonies is in a different league from Haydn. Haydn is wonderful, and this is in a different league, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those pieces that there's a standing ovation at the end of this piece at almost every performance.
Of course.
They really earned it.
Yeah, the Schubert Octet, Trout Quintet, you know, there are just certain pieces where people just leap to their feet, and this is one of them. It's a barn burner. I mean, it's a real barn burner.
But it's even more than that in a way. It's so push me, pull you the whole way through, right? It takes its time, it breathes at other times, and then it just goes like a whirlwind. It's such a mature work for being, as you say, Opus 25, right? It's already got all of his hallmarks here. He the 3 Against 2, of course, but it's everything else that he does, which is give us something room to breathe, and at the same time explodes at the end like he does. Yeah.
He was 23 when he wrote this piece.
Oh my God.
23. And I have to say, the three piano trios, they're all incredible works. This one has done so much more than the others because of this movement. It's just one of these things to close a program where it's just a perfect piece. I would argue that I love the C minor, the slow movement of the C minor is wonderful, but the A major is rarely done because it lasts about 50 to 55 minutes.
Oh.
And people don't like to program it. I love the piece. Yeah, I've programmed it at least twice in my career. It's a really wonderful piece. But let's take a look at the score. Let's stop that.
The A minor. What's the 55-minute one?
So
Zingarese?
what does that mean?
Zigeuner.
Zigeuner.
It's gypsies.
Gypsies.
Isn't it?
Gypsies.
Yeah.
Gypsies.
Zigeuner.
And you see the grace notes. You see the grace notes that are happening here. So there's a lot of talk of, and we said it right in both recordings, the word gypsy. And of course, there's just different connotations to what exactly that is. It's a misnomer to begin with. Gypsy comes from Egyptian, and that it was sourced in Egyptians, but it was basically, these people came from India originally, and they're what's now known as Romani, Romanians. But back then, they were synonymous. They were synonymous to those who didn't know. So Haydn puts alla Ungherese because he knows the Hungarian people. He's there. Even his the gypsy trio that's called, nicknamed Gypsy, not by Haydn. He marks it alla Ungherese, Hungarian. But he also has a gypsy movement. He has one of these movements. I shouldn't say gypsy, but he has one of these movements in his Opus 20 number 4 quartet, the last movement. And there he says, Rondo alla Zingarese. He makes the distinction between Hungarian and gypsy. And this speaks to the sort of complication of the Hungarian music in this time, where people just thought it had this flavor. Like Brahms just wrote this piece. He's like, okay, play it like a gypsy. And it's very Hungarian. It sounds like what Haydn was trying to do in the piano concerto. And it connects directly to what we were talking about earlier, in an earlier talk about Bartók and Kodály, about identifying the Hungarian music and what exactly Hungarian music is. So this was the impetus for that ethnomusicological exploration that Bartók and Kodály set forth on, because they didn't just calling their entire culture's music gypsy music. It was just so trite to them and just really didn't sort of demonstrate what the music was or what their heritage was. So here we have Brahms in 1856, like, it's a gypsy tune. Gypsy tune. Same with, we said Zigeunerweisen and like Sarasate, gypsy. It's just gypsy. It's this general sort of moniker. But it's not. There's distinctive. And Haydn, and I wish I had a recording of the Opus 20 number 4, and I don't, and I apologize. I have number 5. But these are, so you have Haydn who's there, who's with the Hungarian people, presumably, in Vienna. And then you have Brahms, the outsider, ascribing what he believes to be Hungarian onto a piece. And there's a difference, and there's a distinction in that. So I thought that was very interesting, and in the labelings of these movements. And it's a very, that's a very specific directive by the composer, by each composer. But it's just interesting to see the perspective of one who's familiar with the music and one who's an outsider, who's just, sees it as a sort of a flavor rather than a specific sound of music.
Derek, was Brahms still in Germany when he wrote this?
Brahms was still in Germany when he wrote this, yes.
So it was before he came to Vienna and became,
I believe
had more
that's
connection with local music.
I believe so. I believe so. But it's interesting, and there's the racist aspect to it too in the 19th century about gypsy and what gypsy is and things. So, there's all that coupled with it. But let's move to another composer that I'm not going to tell you who this composer is. And I want you to tell me who you think this composer is. And then this composer, it's a he, he's going for a specific style of music. And let's see if we can identify it. This is a performance. These are songs. It's a performance from Sunday, October 9th, with the very eminent mezzo-soprano Magdalena Kožena, the Czech mezzo-soprano, with Malcolm Martineau. And there are 2 songs. And here we go.
Und Ich wünschte 1000 Weibe mir, wenn's recht den Göttern wär. Da tanz ich wie ein Marmatier ins Kreuz und in die Quer. Das wird ein Leben auf der Welt, da wollte ich lustig sein. Ich hüpfte wie ein Has durchs Feld und Herz schlug immer dran. Bum, 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 bum.
Something different?
Yeah.
Very.
I love her voice.
She's terrific.
I
Amazing,
love her voice.
Rich voice.
Love it.
I would guess Kurt Weill.
I was going to guess Wolf.
Wolf.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Kurt Weill.
It is.
Wow.
No.
No.
Anybody
That was
else?
my first impression was Kurt Weill, those intervals. But
Mm-hmm. See, Paul knows a lot of that. Yeah.
So
Eric, is
Yes.
it 20th century, first of all?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a contemporary of Vile?
Yes.
I don't know. I thought Vile right off, but then someone like Korngold, I don't know.
Vile is the obvious choice, and it's a very good guess. But it is not Kurt Weill. You ready? You're sitting down, everyone?
Yeah.
Arnold Schoenberg.
Oh,
Hey, what's Sherman?
Yeah, William mentioned Schoenberg. I didn't think it.
No, it couldn't be.
I didn't think it was.
Must have been
Arnold
early.
Schoenberg. So
Mm.
what is Mr. Schoenberg going for here?
Mhm.
Trying out stuff.
What do you think?
Playing around.
Mm.
Playing around.
Hmm.
What's the flavor here?
Comedy.
Comedy.
Comedy, yeah. The voice.
I think there's a kind of a subversive quality. He wants to subvert the expected with unexpected harmonies and intervals and jumps. So it's obviously early before 12th tone Schoenberg, I think, but it's already anticipating the subversive quality.
I was subversive in my choice of the song, of the music.
Mm.
Subversive is a very good. I like subversive. I like that.
It's got that kind of, what would you say, Sprechgesang or Sprechstimme in the middle of it?
Playful.
Yeah.
But I'd say go with your instincts. Who did you guess? And many people guessed which composer?
Vile.
Weill. And what was Weill known for?
Three-penny opera.
Opera, right?
Irony.
How about Joel Grey?
Yeah.
Sure.
Cabaret.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
these are cabaret songs.
Yeah. I mean, it almost sounds like Three-Penny Opera too.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. The
Yeah.
playful quality.
but amazing, right?
Yeah.
Schoenberg was an amazing composer. An amazing composer.
What
So
year he composed?
I was just going to say, so he wrote this in 1901.
Ooh.
Okay.
And he was 27 years old, and he had gotten it. There was a man, I wrote his name down. His name is Volkswagen, and he wanted to create a cabaret that had a bit more gravitas in the text that the singers were singing. He wanted to elevate the cabaret art form. So Schoenberg got this gig, and it was a temporary gig, being music director at this cabaret. And he barely had any interaction there whatsoever. He actually wrote these songs before he even arrived at the gig in Berlin. But he wanted to get it in this very, very sort of cabaret, loose style, charming and evocative music of the time. And these songs actually weren't published until 1969.
Mm-hmm.
They were found way after the fact. Schoenberg passed in 51. And so the first song is called Mahnung, which means warning, and is basically a guy telling a woman, well, you really need a man or you're going to waste away, or some, you better use your talents with a man, something subversive like that. And the second one is just about love, and it's, the boom, boom, boom is the heart beating, and it's a woman in love. And interestingly enough, the second song, the text was written by a man named Schikaneder. Anybody know who that is? Or what he's famous for?
Magic flute.
The magic flute.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Schikaneder wrote the libretto for Mozart's Magic Flute.
Magic flute.
So it's a very charming little work, and this is and this is what I'm speaking to about the elevated poetry. This one's the subject matter is a little, I don't want to say silly. It's love, and she's in love, and her heart's going boom, boom, boom. But here's Arnold Schoenberg. He wrote before Schoenberg went to atonality. He wrote just prior to this Verklärte Nacht. Transfigured Night, which was based on a poem by Richard Demel. for string sextet. And do we know this piece, Verklärte Nacht? I mean, it's an incredible late romantic piece. He was a devotee of Gustav Mahler, adored Mahler, followed Mahler around everywhere. And Schoenberg started out with very, writing late romantic repertoire. And this one, it's teetering right before he does strictly atonal. He has an atonal period before he goes to the 12-tone method. So in some of these songs, this one less so, but there's atonalities, and you speak to the leaps and these, and that's very cabaret-like as well, but that's very indicative of Schoenberg as well, especially in his vocal writing. But he's like, I've got this gig, I'm writing for a cabaret, and this is Arnold Schoenberg. He just wrote Verklärte Nacht. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible, these songs. And there are 8 songs in this cycle, Brettelieder, and I encourage you to check them out. They're just wonderful. Terrific. They're really fun, really fun. And Kojena, it was amazing job at it. It takes a certain sort of, you've got to approach it with that mindset. You can't sing this like an opera singer, for sure.
Yeah.
Derek, a question.
Sure.
Just comparing it to the Kurt Weill. In the Kurt Weill songs, you always have that sense, Threepenny Opera style, that he had his finger pointing at the degeneracy that he was uncovering. That's not here, though. Here it wasn't Schoenberg doing that. Is that right?
No, I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. There was, I mean, certainly an edge with Brecht and Weill in their music, for sure. But this is subversive. It's subversive. Back in the day, it's an amazing window in time, I think, for someone like Schoenberg to write a piece like this. It's fantastic. Okay, moving right along. In the same season, we had a plethora of wonderful singers, and this is a performance by the mezzo-soprano Bernarda Fink. She's Argentinian and Slovenian, and she came in, this was, 2016, literally a month after Kojena came with us. And I wanted to play you 2 songs from a short cycle by Alberto Ginastera, the Argentine composer. The 5 Canciones Populares Argentinas. So these are popular Argentine songs. This is Opus 10. So here we go. Bernarda Fink singing 2 songs. And I want you to tell me, I mean, again, I never show you the text. Tell me what these songs are telling us, okay? Let's see what Mr. Ginastera is trying to tell us here. Here we go.
sin esperanza ninguna.
Waiting for the sun.
Beautiful. So tell me about that first song.
Tragedy.
Love and heartbreak.
Tragedy, heartbreak.
So Derek, Marty says it's about the death of a child.
Possibly. Not quite. I had to just check the text quickly.
Yeah.
But certainly this is not, uplifting music.
No.
Sounds like a lamentation of some sort.
It's a lamentation.
Yeah.
Lamentation. I like that. It's an outpouring of sadness. This movement is called Triste.
Sadness, yeah.
Sadness, yeah.
Tears. And you just hear it evoked in the music, and he has these broken chords that just sort of go off into the ether, and they're supposed to be a gaucho's guitar strum. A triste, sad, tears, it means sadness, but it was also interestingly, which I hadn't known, obviously this is a sad song, but it's actually a type of song from an indigenous people in the Andes with guitar. And hence that's why he would do that. So it's a lamentation that is an ancient song from the Andes, from the indigenous people of the Andes, that Ginastera drew from and used his own, very dissonant harmonies. Yeah, I mean, he's got tonality, but he's always adding an 11th, or he's adding extra notes into these chords. Any guess for when this piece was written? Decade.
1950s?
50s.
When was it written?
Huh?
He died in the 70s?
We have 50s. That's it?
That's yes.
This was written in the 40s, in 1943.
Okay.
Oh,
And Hinastera passed only in 1983.
Yeah.
Lived along 1916, 1983.
better than I thought.
So, okay, so there's the first song. What about the second song?
That sounded like a lullaby to me.
A lullaby.
Mhm.
I thought I caught a word, but I'm not sure, a sueño, but I'm not sure if I did, which means dream. But maybe not.
Her voice is so liquid that it's really hard to hear consonants. And my Spanish is still college Spanish, and that was a few years ago, so
Yeah.
it was just hard to hear the text.
Sounded like it was a mournful song during the night waiting for the sun to rise.
We'll go with that.
Wow. Let's be specific. Yeah, great. Great.
The repeated notes of the piano, though, were like meant to put a baby to sleep, I thought.
I think you both, Paul and Margaret, are right. It's a lullaby.
Mm.
It's exactly what it is. And yes, and sueño is in the text.
Derek, both of
yes.
these songs reminded me a lot of Bachianas Brasileiras, and also the songs of the Auvergne.
Yeah.
Of the Auvergne, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But one of my first thoughts was that it sounded so plaintive, the first one, and it reminded me of the slow part in the Brahms. The tone and the sadness of it was reminiscent of the gypsy song, which is not surprising. I mean, folk songs or around the world have a similarity.
It's an interesting observation. I will agree with that. I like that. Here's what's interesting about this setting of this lullaby. It's called a roro. And it's, again, it's a lullaby. It's a very specific song in Argentina. And Hinastera didn't alter the text, the rhythm, or the melody of the actual song. All he did was color it with harmony. He kept everything very strict to the original, actual notated song, which I find really interesting. And yes, the instrumentation is very spare. It's very, quiet, and there's a lot of silence and sustained notes rather than busyness. But he stuck to a very strict format in composing this little song. And I think it creates this, with his harmonic coloring, this just real setting of just this beauty, like rocking a baby to sleep, that's just so almost beautiful in its simplicity, I would say. It's a really lovely little song. I didn't know these songs until Bernarda had come here. And Hinastera's music, if you don't know it, and I should know more of it. I mean, it's really, really wonderful stuff, especially in the piano writing. But a lovely song, and these were very near and dear to her heart as an Argentine. She's an Argentine who was born in Argentina and then moved as a young child to Slovenia. and in this particular program did Slovenian folk songs before she closed the recital with these songs. So it was a really, really wonderful program. So I wanted to circle back, from what I had said in the beginning about Bartók and Kodály, and we played some Bartók 2 weeks ago in speaking about the Hungarian folk music and ethnomusicology. And I thought we really should go to Mr. Kodály and hear a piece of Zoltán Kodály's music. So we hear the other side of the coin. And I have a photo here that I am going to share. And that's Bartók and Kodály as young men looking over music. There are photos. I couldn't get a clean one of Kodály next to a phonograph and taking dictation, which is very interesting. But as I said, these two composers really, they wanted to really highlight the Hungarian identity in music and not just accept that everything, everybody says it's gypsy stuff, and that there are distinctive languages and voices within Hungary, and they work their entire lives to highlight that. So I've got a piece here by Kodály written in 1914, right before World War I, and you can hear the tension in this piece. But this is his duo for violin and cello, which is a marvelous piece, and we'll listen to the first movement. And this is a performance from Friday, February 26th, 2010, by the musicians from Marlborough. And the two players are violinist Augustin Hadalik, who's now a very famous soloist, touring all over the world, and cellist Peter Stumpf, who is the former associate cellist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, principal cellist of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and now teaches at Indiana University. So let's give a listen to the first movement of Kodály's duo for violin and cello.
Interesting piece.
What'd you think?
Melancholy. Mhm.
I had two reactions. One of them is how remarkable is that musicians of this caliber, instrumentalists, the playing is just remarkable. And these are wonderful musicians, but they're not household words. And that's terrific and a beautiful piece. The other thought is how we've all become kind of Eurocentric because we focused on. I mean, one could I think do a series. I'm sure you could do it, Derek, on composers using Middle Eastern folk music, Asian folk music, as Yo-Yo Ma's doing with the Silk Road Project, some African music. I mean, there are so many folk traditions which should be, made into monuments as this is done with the Hungarian music, as Bartók and Kodály did. So, just two random thoughts.
I will disagree in that I stay in my lane. There are others that are far better equipped than I am to do that. What I try to do is to excel in what I do and not to water down in another area where I'm not as, I hate to say, expert in what I'm doing. But you're right.
You're a risk taker, Derek.
But it's important. You know, the world has all sorts of relevant music. I mean, we're only speaking about essentially Western European music right now, and that's only because that's what I do. But that's not to say that we should close the door on all of these other musics. I mean, there's again, I speak to how much there is in this little lane, and going and hearing what's the world music, for lack of a better term, and ethnic practitioners of their own music. It's fantastic. I mean, you look at somebody like Ravi Shankar, who had that such an influence on Western music. You know, he came in and the Beatles came to him and just influenced everything. You know, just that taste. And then you go back to Debussy, to the Paris World's Fair, and he comes across the gamelan ensemble at the Paris World's Fair that uses pentatonic scales, and it forever changes him. So, you know, there's so much incredible music. I mean, you know, and I should say that that what Mona Golub is doing in Schenectady in Central Park, and the artists that she brings in, she knows what she's doing. Really, really fantastic musicians in that regard. But yeah, this piece it's a tour de force. It's such a hard piece to play. I mean, David, maybe you're speaking as a cellist, you appreciate these musicians. I mean, you know, it's just fiendishly difficult, and different than how Bartók is difficult. How would you say this music is different from Bartók, than the Bartók quartet that we heard a couple weeks ago, or any Bartók for that matter?
You need great technical skill to play Bartók. This is much.
That's everything.
Anyone?
Kodály just had a sound. It was unmistakable. He just sang. I just thought he sang, and there was a melodic line in Kodály that was unmistakable.
Correct. He's a melodist.
He was a melodist. It was all through his orchestral music, and I heard it all through this movement. It was quite unique.
Yeah.
The Bartók quartet movement you played a few weeks ago was much more rhythmically active, very unusual than this. This was not as rhythmic. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And I said it at the time, it's more tonal. There's more of a tonal center to this music. with the spice of the Hungarian, harmony in there. But you're right, Gary, and it's not complicated rhythmically so much. There are figures within the bars that are uneven, but at this point in music history, that happens often. So I wouldn't say that that's a distinctive quality of it. But it's very distinctive, and I will again push a recording. There's a recording of the violinist Joseph Gingold with cellist Janos Starker, made a while back ago. Joseph Gingold was the concertmaster of the Cleveland Orchestra under George Zell, and Starker was a fantastic cello soloist. And there's a recording of this piece along with the solo cello sonata. It's really, really an extraordinary recording. Wonderful recording. Wonderful recording. But I wanted to read a quote from Kodály from 1925. And he says, certain modern Hungarian works apparently have created the impression abroad of a musical revolution. They are more accurately to be described as conservative. Our intention has not been to break with the past, but to renew and strengthen the links by creating the atmosphere of the ancient forgotten melodies, by erecting new structures from their scattered stones. These old songs are our heirlooms. Their creators, long since silent, are our true ancestors. So you see with him and Bartók, this is what they set out to do. They were so passionate about giving this music a voice, a distinctive, this is our music, and we're embracing our music. It's not somebody ascribing a label of gypsy to something and that's our music. They were very extraordinarily passionate about their country and its place in music history and its influence on music. And I think it's
Derek, could I just on that point? They weren't just antiquarians. They weren't just going around and collecting the music and transcribing it. They were then composing and renewing it and doing something different. So they were taking the past and taking it and moving a step forward with it, not just preserve. So he's a little bit overly modest in that characterization.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And I would say that even comparing the two, that Bartók was a much more innovative than Kodály as a composer. Kodály is mostly known, he has these few pieces. It's a string quartet that's done a little bit. The Hari János Suite.
Yeah. And what's the other wonderful orchestral piece of Kodály's? The Mandarin. What's?
No, that's Bartók. Miraculous Mandarin.
Bartók.
That's Bartók. Yeah.
That's Bartók. Okay, I got them confused. His is Hari János.
Yes, Hari János Suite.
Yeah.
And the Dances of Galanta.
Dances of Galanta, of course. Thank you, John. That's the other one. But he was mostly known for a teaching method of music that's still utilized with solfege. Do we know what solfege is?
Mm-hmm. Solfeggio.
Do we know the sound of music? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. So he yes. Yeah. So it's a method of what's known as movable do, where do is not C all the time. Do is the root of a key. And that's the Kodály method. So he's quite well known for that in his lifetime. But really, where Bartók perhaps had more fame as a composer, I would say, more success. His legacy is perhaps stronger than Kodály's. They were both deeply interested in ethnomusicology and promoting the Hungarian voice in music, and there's no mistaking. So what I tried to do tonight is to give you an idea of, first I wanted to get into that gypsy thing because that's troublesome in general. And to see where composers ascribe an outside view of a culture or a style, as opposed to the composer within that culture or style creating and giving it their own voice. Composers have done this throughout history. Mozart, the Rondo alla Turca, it's the 11th sonata, and the where Mozart, the Paris Symphony or the Prague Symphony, where he's taking styles that were fashionable at the time in these times, not necessarily cultural, but would utilize them in his music and that, giving them that moniker. But there's a difference between that and folk music and utilizing folk music. And there's somebody who is missing tonight, composer-wise, who really, really wrote a lot, was influenced heavily by folk music.
Dvorak?
Dvorak. Yes, Dvorak. It's too easy. You know, he famously, you know, it's in almost every one of his works. I had a small work, The Miniatures, which Opus 75A, which is a transcription of the romances for violin and piano. Almost every piece of Dvorak's is deeply infused with folk music. And even when he came to Iowa here and he wrote the New World Symphony, he based it, you know, on Negro spirituals and American folk music, and use those styles. Whereas it's funny in that in the American quartet, he doesn't do that. He doesn't really use a lot of folk music, but it's called the American Quartet because he wrote it while he was over here. So, but Dvorak was missing tonight. So I thought it was I thought it was shooting fish in a barrel. So I wanted to bring about, especially the Schoenberg and Kodály. The Kodály is a really wonderful piece, and you know, there's another duo piece, and I want to program, which is the Ravel Sonatina for violin and cello, which is also an incredible piece. And before I forget, I mean, it harkens back to what we were talking about last week, Paul, about the blues and about Ravel borrowing the blues. So he's taking a style from another place and doing it his own, and whether he's getting the essence of the blues, which you had some issues with last week, you know, that's up for question. But there's a difference when people are infused with their culture, and then, you know, promoting their music and using that, you know, inherent in their style of composition. So do we have any questions or further thoughts about this kind of music before we go? This is our last one. I will say again, our last original show as I start the radio program next week. I wanted to just give you a little teaser. So I got the final episode yesterday, and there's about 5 minutes of my conversation with the cellist of the Dora Quartet, John Myerscough. But we had a conversation ranging an hour and a half about everything under the sun and politics and also everything. But I just wanted to give you a little taste, a little teaser about our conversation that we had. And it was basically just about where we're at right now. And it's only about a minute or so long. So here's John Myerscough from the Dora Quartet, and we're in conversation with me from my closet, my recording studio closet.
It's a completely different thing, but about all this time that we're having. Like I've been doing a little bit of coaching with quartets, and obviously they can't play because they're not with each other, but we sit and we talk through the score and discuss things, and they all are sitting there looking at the score. Probably they wouldn't have done that if they hadn't been forced to do this. Right. And likewise with your audience, are probably not being confronted with such a direct demand to actually ask them, just listen and see what you're getting from this. Yeah. And that will make us so much richer when we do get to do concerts again. And like, for sure concerts are going to happen. I mean, this is not going to disappear, and it might be different. It might be like our diaries might be structured differently, but we're still going to do concerts, like, without a doubt, and go to concerts and get all of that. And I think there's a chance that the people who want it, at least, are going to get much, much more from it and be more demanding on what they hear and want to engage more, and maybe be also less opinionated about it all. That's right. And step back and marvel, actually, what an amazing thing it is that's going on.
So there you go, John Myers Co. I've been talking about you guys in our sessions. So, you know, this is, and I think he's right. This is an opportunity for us during this hiatus, so to speak, and to further just throw ourselves deeper into it. So when it does come back, that it's just even that more impactful when we're in the concert hall and sharing this music together. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. We want to thank you, Derek, for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Marvelous job.
Thank you guys. Thank you everybody.
Very good.
And remember, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
6 o'clock on WMHT, and right here at 7 o'clock. I usually log on 10 minutes early. Yeah, I'm probably going to be on maybe 5 minutes early. I don't want to cheat the show, but
Right.
give a listen and come on to Zoom, and I'll be here and we'll talk. Okay.
Excellent.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.